Hello, everybody. This is Maya Zahira with psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And we are now starting our free Zoom class that we have monthly for members of our free Facebook group, the Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. So let's jump right in. As always, I am going to look at my notes. I've got 2 whole pages of notes to go over with you guys. So I'm going to start off by asking you a few questions, and then I'm going to say what today's topic is. Okay, questions. And whether you're joining live or watching the replay, you can answer in the chat or the comments. Excuse me. So questions for you. Have you had a crazy amount of paranormal activity or negative spiritual experiences in your life? Think about that. The answer might be no, and that's great, but it still would be good to learn about what we're going to talk about today. Next question. Have you had an unusual amount of bad luck or negative life experiences? Now, we all have a few bad things here and there, but does it feel like an unusual amount? Final question. Have evil, disturbed, or troubled people been drawn into your life to an unusual degree? And this can be people who are close to you, life partners, family, or it can be coworkers, it can be acquaintances, strangers, whatever level of relationship it is. Have evil, disturbed, or troubled people been drawn into your life to an unusual degree? So today's topic is what it means to be a spiritually targeted individual. What it means to be a spiritually targeted individual. Now, this is not at all about, focusing on being a victim or, over focusing on, oh, I'm targeted. That's not the direction that we're going. But if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I'm not into the positive vibes only movement. I think it is important to spend some time talking about some things that are issues, things that are a problem. And just like usual with our free content, this is intended to be introductory content, even though a lot of times we go pretty deep into whatever the introductory topic is. We are pretty thorough about covering what's needed. And then I always try to give you a few tips as well. So most of our free content is about helping you understand what a particular issue is. For example, today the issue is being a spiritually targeted individual, helping you understand and more clearly define what that is so that you can feel like you're not alone, so that you know that you're not crazy. This is happening to other people. It's not just you. And there are a lot of times when if you don't realize this is a thing, there's this part of your brain that's like not putting all the pieces together until someone points it all out to you. So you might be one of those people where you're just you suspect that things are very wrong, but once I map this all out, then it'll make sense and you'll go, oh, now I understand. So we're going to be defining and gaining a better understanding, and then I'm going to give you 4 tips at the end, okay? So right now, for those of you who are joining live, I invite you to share if you do feel like you are a spiritually targeted individual. There's a lot of power in sharing your story. And I'll read your first name, not your full name, so that people watching the replay on the public YouTube channel can hear your answers, but you can also have some anonymity. So let's read those comments. And you can also share where you're joining from. And then also those of you who are watching the replay on YouTube or wherever, feel free to answer the questions that I asked at the beginning. Think about this. You can journal about it, talk with a friend, and or make a comment in the comment section. So let's read. So as I'm clicking through to the chat, just a reminder that this is a live class. And so if you're watching the replay, we've uploaded the replay to a couple different places online, just simply as a courtesy so that we can get this content out to more people. We don't edit this content. This is, even though I do have 2 pages of notes that I'm going to be teaching, this is also done in a very casual way. We're going to be chatting, we're going to be sharing. So just hopefully that's okay. Some people expect a different kind of format on YouTube. If you need it to be all like slick and shiny and perfectly edited, this is not your channel. And that's okay. Bye. So let's read some of these comments. Okay, we've got quite oh, wait, hold on. Just like usual, it's going back to last month's comments. So now I know that it does that. Okay, so chat for today, Linda, in response to the question about crazy amount of paranormal or negative spiritual experiences, she says, yes, unfortunately. And for the second question about unusual amount of bad luck, negative life experiences, Linda says, sometimes I feel that way, but it's been much better the last few years, especially since I moved and especially since I've been following Maya as a teacher and mentor. Yeah, and Linda has been working with me in the Spiritual Empowerment Academy, just FYI for everyone watching this. That's the paid program that I have. It's my one paid program where you can work with me, ask me questions directly. And I'm really glad that's been helpful for you, Linda. And for the next question, have evil or disturbed or troubled people been drawn into your life? Linda says, yes, I believe so. However, incidents have been less the past few years, so I'm always vigilant. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else who feels brave, feel free to share. And it's always optional. So we're so glad that you're here. You can also share with us where you're joining from. And before we get into like the real nitty gritty of today's topic, what it means to be a spiritually targeted individual, I like to go through our announcements kind of near the beginning. So I'm going to do that right now just so we get it over with. And then all the rest is content, it's information. Okay. So, if you're new to my material or if you want to learn more, you can go, there's a couple different places I'm going to tell you about. And this is because this one video isn't going to give you everything that you need. So let's talk about some other places where you can receive either free support, free resources, or low cost. And then I do have one program that does have a fee to it. So the first thing is website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. That's a good spot to start with. And you can sign up for my email newsletter on there. And when you do that, you'll get a series of emails that have free gifts and then some majorly discounted resources, and then other information about my services. So I don't send you 5 emails a day. That is so annoying that businesses do that now. I hate that. I think I have it set up to send you 1 email every 3 days or something like that. Through the free gifts that I'm going to send you. There's also a Facebook group called Psychic Protection Sanctuary. And the main thing that we do in there is we have this free class once a month, and we also do have some discussions. There are books on Amazon. So if you go on Amazon.com, type in Maya Zahira, and you'll find right now I have 3 books, and I just started my 4th book yesterday. Very exciting. One announcement, excuse me, is that my 3rd book is now on Audible. So those of you who've been asking, when are you going to have the Audible of your more recent book? It is on Amazon and Audible. It is now available in audio form for those of you who like to listen. And those of you who are sight impaired, you can have access to that as of, I think it was last week. And then YouTube channel. If you are not aware of that, maybe you're watching the replay there, who knows? YouTube channel is Psychic Protection Sanctuary YouTube channel. And there's like over 100 hours of free content on there. And I make it a point to have a ton of free stuff out there so that everybody can receive support. If you're having issues of psychic attack, spiritual warfare, being a spiritually targeted individual, you might be someone who needs more guidance, because just reading my book will get you started. Watching the free videos is a great way to start, but you might be one of those people that needs more guidance. And if that's the case, then take a look at the website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And there's on the menu, Work with Maya, and the mentoring program is Spiritual Empowerment Academy. And that is the only way to work with me directly right now. Okay. Because there's only so many hours in a day. And when I used to offer a lot of different programs, and I used to offer one-on-one sessions to the public, I was up till 2:30 in the morning every night, every morning, because I couldn't fit everyone in my schedule, and it was unhealthy. Like, I want to have many years of helping people with these issues. And so we had to make it more sustainable. So that is the only way to work with me right now. But there's a lot of free resources, and I'm really happy about that, so that everybody can get some level of support. Okay, so today's topic is what it means to be a spiritually targeted individual. What it means to be spiritually targeted. All right, so if you missed the beginning, some of you who've just joined, I asked some questions at the beginning, so you can go back and watch that later. So now there's so much nitty gritty to this, so I know I'm going to be looking down at my notes. Thank you for your understanding about that. Let's get into the definition, my definition of a spiritually targeted individual. There is a term out there called targeted individual, which is a slightly different thing. And I'm not going to go into defining that, but a spiritually targeted individual is what we're talking about today. And let's talk about this. So first I'm going to talk about some of the symptoms of being a spiritually targeted individual. And then I'm going to talk about some of the reasons why someone might be spiritually targeted. And then I'm going to give you 4 tips to start with. Okay. So spiritual targeting can include one or more of these items. And by the way, if you have a spiritual nerd brain like I do, then you might want to take notes. So, because it's going to help you map it all out and understand what's happening, what possibly is happening to you. Yeah. So spiritual targeting can include one or more of these aspects. And just remember that if you are someone who has had just one negative spiritual experience, like a blip on the radar, that doesn't necessarily mean your whole life has been targeted. So we're thinking in terms of like, has this been going on for many years? Or is it just like in the last 2 weeks, you're having an issue that you've never had before? Okay, if it's like the last 2 weeks, someone's been sending you bad energy, you've never had that type of thing happen to you before, you're probably not spiritually targeted, but it's still good to learn about this just in case, or to help a loved one if they are having these issues. Spiritual targeting can include ongoing, reoccurring spiritual or paranormal attacks. So let's talk about that. Spiritual targeting could be that there's been an entity attack, entity interference, living in different haunted houses. So it's not necessarily the same issue that's lasting a whole lifetime, but when you look back, you go, oh yeah, I remember I was having weird paranormal things when I was a kid, or we lived in a haunted house when I was a kid. And then I had this other weird paranormal stuff when I was an adult. And then, like, you can see that there have been different things that have happened throughout your life. It could be that there's been one solid thing happening your whole life. Most people that I work with, they've had different things kind of layered on top of each other. And not to get too weird, but we're just gonna always talk about weird stuff on this channel. Most of what we talk about is spiritual, but the reality is that there's a fine line between spiritual targeting, people who've had a pattern of paranormal issues with black magic being sent to them, psychic attacks, entity issues, etc., 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 curses. There's a fine line between that and people who are also might be experiencing alien abduction. So I don't talk a lot about alien abduction on this channel, but just know that if you suspect that maybe you've had some weird experiences with that, or like a lot of times people suspect it's kind of in the back of their mind, but they're not sure. But you also know that you've had weird paranormal experiences. Oftentimes that goes hand in hand. Not always. I've also worked with a lot of people who've had strictly spiritual types of issues and no alien stuff. But just know that that can be part of the mix with the spiritual targeting. Okay, so all of the spiritual, paranormal, all of that ball of wax. Spiritual targeting can also include what a term that I coined several years ago, secondary psychic attack. This is when people in your life, whether people who are close to you or acquaintances or absolute strangers, people in your life are nudged or drawn to do things to upset you or cause you actual harm. So someone who's spiritually targeted, it'll be more extreme, where they might have a pattern of horrible people or heavily dramatic people are drawn into their life. So it could be the same person. It could be their family is this way, or just smattering of different people coming into their life. Can be an indication of spiritual targeting. Some of these horrible people can just be bringing up a ton of drama. People who are sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists in the dark triad, or other kinds of abusive people, or even people drawn into your life who engage in psychic attack, like emotional psychic attack, sending bad energy, bad thoughts to you, or actual black magic curse, people who are practitioners of black magic, whatever flavor of tradition they're using. So attracting different people into your life who are sending black magic. Okay. And this is not your fault. Like, it's not your fault that you are being targeted, but it's just a thing. It's like this pattern that starts, and it's like a snowball effect. In addition to spiritual and paranormal activity and secondary psychic attack and like primary psychic attack, people directly psychically attacking you, there's also a pattern of just difficult or horrible life situations. And now let's get into another weird thing. This is called directed energy weapons. Directed energy weapons are actually, you can Google it. It's DEW for short, directed energy weapons. And this is actually something created by the military, and anybody who talks about it is called, you know, a Looney Tune. People say that they're crazy or a conspiracy theorist, but you can easily Google it, find information about how directed energy weapons have been used by the military for a long time. And they also get into other human hands. And there are people who are spiritually targeted individuals who will come under attack by, let's say, human technology. So maybe the targeting is less about spiritual warfare, but there is more human technology warfare where the person is having these directed energy weapons directed at them. And directed energy weapons can harm a person's health. They can harm a person's emotional and mental well-being, sending negative thoughts, causing the person to think that they're going crazy, putting thoughts into the person's mind. Is pretty crazy stuff. Spiritually targeted individual can also be under surveillance. So this can be spiritual surveillance, where the spiritual dark forces, the negative powers that be, you are on their radar. This is what I call it, being on the radar of the dark forces. Sometimes you're on their radar and they're keeping an eye on you. And I'll just give you an example. I do consider myself to be spiritually targeted. Again, not from a victim mentality, but just like, this is what it is. We're just going to say what is. So I cleared out some weird activity out of my work and out of my life at the beginning of the year, January, February, etc. And everything became so it was very much, I felt stuff that was sent by dark forces, like drama and stuff that was totally unnecessary. And I felt like it was to cause disruption to me and to this work. And I cleared all of that out and shifted things, and everything was really peaceful for, I think, like 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And I was feeling like even more uplifted than even ever before, like inspired, uplifted. And what was it? Approximately 10 days ago, I can't remember how many days ago it was, about 10 days ago, somebody was sent my way. And I can't go into the story, it's confidential, but a situation hit me like a 2x4 on the head. And yeah, I'll be talking about it in a future book. I'll have to change the details of the people involved. But it was as though dark forces were keeping an eye on me. I said something to my admin assistant, Stephanie. I said, oh, yeah, things were very peaceful and uplifted. And then, like, dark forces don't like that when you're doing well and you're very peaceful and uplifted energy, high vibration. And so they go, oh, look, on the radar. We got to zap that one right there. I mean, I don't know that it's literally that, but it feels that way sometimes, doesn't it? And so it was like a big zap. And last week I had to do a ton of spiritual cleansing, and all is well now. Thank God. Thank goodness. But that's an example of how the spiritual surveillance works. Like, oh, if you're doing too well, like they notice that they're watching, right? I'm just laughing because you all get it because you're experiencing it, but people who don't have these experiences, to people who don't have these experiences, this sounds so crazy. It just sounds so crazy. But we're not here to talk to those people. We're here to talk to you guys. I'm here to talk to you. We're here to talk to each other. So the other aspect of surveillance is physical surveillance, like human technology surveillance. And I've worked with a lot of people who are spiritually targeted, who are being surveilled through human technology. And I've had that as well. I won't go into that story, but yeah, where there was something, a tracking and listening device that was implanted. I no longer live at that location, but it was 2 locations ago. I've moved a few times since I moved cross country. And yeah, there was a weird thing where there was some technology placed in my apartment that I was living in at the time, and that was very annoying. And I've worked with a lot of people who've dealt with surveillance, like actual physical surveillance, and not just a device placed in your home, but where, I mean, nowadays with technology, computers can be, uh, I don't know what the right word, like hacked into, where from a long distance they can get into your computer, look through your camera. I don't want to make you guys all paranoid because I don't think this is happening to everybody. But here's the thing is if you have a gut feeling like maybe that's happening, you might want to trust your gut. Yeah. I'm going to give some tips in a little bit, by the way. So you can look forward to that. There's also something called gang stalking. This is kind of a larger term, but what I'm talking about here today with spiritual targeting is when the secondary psychic attack, I talked about how a person might be nudged to say or do things to harm you. Gang stalking in spiritual targeting really has to do with a whole group of people doing this kind of secondary psychic attack where they're guided. They may not know that they're being nudged by dark spiritual forces, but they are. And so it's either a cohesive group of people who are messing with the targeted individual, or it's maybe not a cohesive group that knows each other, but it's different people not connected to each other, but they're all messing with the person. And it's all a web. That's the connection is that the dark forces, all the negative spiritual forces are nudging those people through their own darkness and their own unhealed aspects. Okay, so I'm going to read some comments. So this is some pretty heavy stuff here that we're talking about. That is pretty fringe. It's pretty out there, but honestly, not only do I believe that I'm a spiritually targeted individual, I've worked with so many people over the years who've had these issues. Uh, this is how I come up with a lot of this content is through not only observations in my own life, but working with so many people over the years. My spiritual nerd brain like maps it all out in a CSI whiteboard, and I notice patterns like, okay, this is what's happening with spiritually targeted individuals. This is why it's happening, etc. So we're going to get into the why in just a little bit. But let's read comments, and to make sure I'm not coughing and clearing my throat at the end, I'm going to take a water break. Okay. All right. Veronica, welcome. She says she's in Cancun. She says, I've experienced an unreasonably large number of tragic experiences in life, and I suspect that I'm targeted for both negative and positive spiritual experiences. Like both sides affect me, like a struggle goes on. And she says she feels that she's on everybody's radar. And Linda says, I'm sorry that happened, and I hear you. Um, zaps were coming in left and right last week, especially. Also used my spiritual tools to cleanse, ground, and reinforce protections. Yeah, I definitely don't think I'm the only one who goes through that stuff, but that was just an example. Yeah. Thank you for sharing, you guys. It always helps. And I welcome those of you who are watching the replay. Share your thoughts. This is how we get things off our chest. This is how, when other people read your comment, they know that they're also not alone. So don't feel like you're taking up space by sharing a comment. It's actually a really good thing. It helps you to get it off your chest. It also helps other people because they can relate to what you're saying, and that is very healing. Okay, let's talk about why. Why are some people spiritually targeted? Because not everybody is. Not everybody is. In fact, the people who are what I'm going to call human zombies, not literal, but human zombies, those are the people who tend to not be targeted. And by human zombies, I mean people who are, and this is not from judgment, this is just kind of, it is what it is. There are a lot of people on the planet who just go to work, come home, stare at the TV, and drink a couple beers, and that is all. It's like their brain is kind of unconscious. That's kind of where they are. Um, that's okay. Everybody has free will. Everybody is where they're at. But the fact is that that kind of person being kind of unconscious and asleep and numbed out is not going to be any kind of threat to the dark forces. And by the way, those of you, if you're new, I use the term dark forces because some people say demonic forces. Well, there's a lot more dark forces than just demonic. We've got all sorts of different spiritual beings out there that are not supportive of humanity, who are not helpful to humanity. So that's why I call it dark forces or negative forces. So the people who are human zombies are not a threat to that dark forces agenda. The dark forces would like people to be either unconscious, asleep, numbed out, or suffering. They really would like for people to be suffering because they like to, they like to feed off of that energy, right? So human zombies tend to not be targeted, but let's talk about the kind of people who are. So you might relate to one or more of these categories. People who are waking up spiritually, or who have a lot of spiritual gifts, tend to be targeted. So those who are waking up, who are having a spiritual awakening, or who have certain spiritual gifts that maybe the average people don't have, those people might be targeted. And it's not always 100% across the board. But I'm going to say most of the time, as I'm speaking this out loud, what's coming to me is a lot of the people who are spiritual workers, who have spiritual gifts, they might not seem to be targeted by dark forces, because what has happened is they've been blasted by false light, which I'm not going to go down all of that rabbit hole today. Well, maybe I'll talk about that next month. But a lot of the people who are waking up, or who are already awake and are very spiritually gifted, and maybe they're even doing spiritual work, they get blasted by false light, by imposter entities, dark entities pretending to be light beings. And so then they think that they're channeling messages, they think that they're doing psychic readings with angels or whatever, and really they're being majorly targeted by dark forces, and these dark forces are pretending to be beings of light. And that's a real mind F. So I would say across the board, most people who have a lot of spiritual gifts, maybe all people who have a lot of spiritual gifts, are targeted, are spiritually targeted, whether they are having dark experiences that are dark in an obvious sort of way, or more trickster experiences with false light. Okay. Other people who are targeted are people with trauma, which is kind of everyone on the planet, actually, but people with a lot of trauma, unhealed trauma, physical trauma from an accident, car accident, surgery, emotional trauma, societal trauma, racial trauma, spiritual trauma, for example, past spiritual attacks, past spiritual warfare. All of those things can weaken and damage the aura and can make a person an easier target for future spiritual targeting. A person who is uncovering covert information, a truth speaker. A lot of the truth speakers and the people who are uncovering important information in the world, they end up being spiritually targeted. A lot of those spiritually targeted individuals end up also having issues that are human and physical based. For example, directed energy weapons and gang stalking and harassment and surveillance, as well as the spiritual targeting. So that's how that works. And there are also some people who have who are of a particular bloodline. So there are some people who are spiritually targeted individuals because their ancestry or their bloodline is heavily targeted. And because they are a part of that bloodline, then that's why. Okay. So if that's the case, then there's a lot of ancestral clearing that needs to be done, which is the kind of one of the many things that we do in the Spiritual Empowerment Academy. And then finally, the last thing on the list is anyone who is a threat to the dark forces agenda. Remember what I said, that the dark forces, negative spiritual forces, would like for people to be asleep, unconscious, like mentally, spiritually unconscious, numbed out, right? And maybe even like just suffering and feeling awful all the time. And anyone who is working against that agenda, whether they know that they are or not, is a threat. Hope this person doesn't mind. I'm going to be vague in saying this. I spoke with someone recently who is working with another individual to do some really important work with couples, with helping couples to heal their relationships together. And this brought on some spiritual attack to the people in the helping position, because the dark forces don't want people to be in healed relationships. They don't want humanity to be healed and feeling good. So that's just an example. Okay, so what aspects of this can you relate to? Do you feel like you fit into any of those categories that I just described? So those of you who are here live, those of you watching the replay. And so while I'm waiting for any comments to come through, I'm going to get another drink, and then I'm going to talk about the purpose, why dark forces do this. I've learned if I don't stop and drink, then by the end, I don't know if you've seen any videos where at the end I'm like coughing and clearing my throat because my throat gets so dry. So what's the purpose? Like why do dark forces do this kind of targeting? Yeah, we talked about how they don't want anyone to threaten their agenda. But let's break it down in a different way. So the purpose of any negative spiritual targeting, is to lower a person's vibration, the purpose is to take them out of commission. So take them out of commission so that they're not fully living to their potential, so that they're not fully vibrating at the frequency that they could be, making an impact in the world. By the way, I truly believe you don't have to be doing things in the world. You can be vibrating a certain way and making an impact in the world. But I also believe in getting out and feeding the poor and helping people. But so what they want to do is take you out of commission so that, and lower your vibration so that you're not living up to that frequency of who you truly are, and you're not able to take the actions, whatever the actions are that you might be doing to help humanity in small local ways or larger ways. The other purpose is to keep the person sick, poor, traumatized, surrounded by drama, and without support. And when one or more of those things are accomplished, it's very hard. It's much harder for the person to achieve their potential. Okay. And all of this can be overcome. I wouldn't come on here and talk about this if it was totally hopeless. Like, let's just talk about all this hopeless stuff so we can be in despair. All of this can be overcome. And the first step of becoming empowered is to understand the strategy. Like, this is what it is. This is what's happening. So that's this first part. We map it all out on our CSI whiteboard. And then we work on healing and doing the empowerment work, which you can do either by reading my books, or if you really want to get comprehensive, that would be the mentoring program. So another thought I want to mention before I read your comments, I'm going to say light workers, people who are spiritual seekers, people who are on the path. Some are tricked pre-birth into being born into a family of abuse, deep poverty, racism, addiction, suffering, or etc. So some are intentionally tricked. It's not their choice, or maybe they're tricked into choosing it. And the whole idea is back to what we talked about, to just keep them so abused that I don't know about you, but I spent like the first 20 years of my adulthood recovering from my childhood so that I could more fully step into this spiritual work. And imagine if we didn't have to recover from that. You know, of course we can say all of that makes us stronger. We learn a lot from it, but we don't want to give gratitude to a shit sandwich. You know, I mean, if we didn't choose it and we were tricked into it and it was intended to keep you down, then we're just not going to say that's a good thing. You can make the best of it and you can heal from it, but we're not going to say it's a good thing. Okay. So a lot of times it's done intentionally to trick. So let's read some of your comments and then we'll get into the tips. Okay. Veronica says, trauma, spiritual gifts, speaking the truth. Yes. And she says, I remember before I was born being told that I would need to face a great deal of opposition. And I had no idea. Oh, how very. She says, I agree. The trickery is absolutely unacceptable. So in my second book, I have had to think, I've got enough books now. I have to remember what they're called. In my second book, the Psychicattack Sourcebook, there is a section on how there's an explanation description about how soul contracts, pre-birth agreements can be hijacked. Because the standard new age la la land belief is that it's all good and it's all we should be grateful for all of it, but there is hijacking. So if you want to know more about that, you can go to that resource, read some more about it. Okay, so let's talk about some tips. Remember that when we do these free and introductory videos, these tips are to just get you started. And you can go as far as you want to with these tips. And then also at the beginning, I made announcements and gave information about other resources where you can go deeper and you can work with me personally if you wish to do so. Okay, we have 4 tips. The first tip is to simply acknowledge that you are not alone. If you are a spiritually targeted individual, just know that you are not the only one. And there is some comfort. Of course, we don't want other people to be targeted, but there is comfort in knowing that you're not the only one who is experiencing this or something like this. And so the first tip is this acknowledgement, taking in this understanding that you're not alone and there are other people having these weird, fringy experiences. And the other part of this number 1 tip is to find allies, find people, find a community, whether it's just showing up for this class every month, just so you know that you're connecting with like-minded people. This is a free resource. Joining the Facebook group, Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group, binge watching on the Psychic Protection Sanctuary YouTube channel, or finding some other community somewhere else, online or in person. And then there's always Spiritual Empowerment Academy, the mentoring program that is a paid program. And one of the best parts of that program is the support and solidarity that you find with other people who have similar experiences. So that's the first tip, knowing that you're not alone and purposely connecting with community, whatever that might be for you. Number 2 tip, I recommend improving your security. So this improving your physical 3D security. So this is not to be paranoid or fear-based, but like you might be more private online. I'm also more careful when nowadays, I've learned the hard way that when I first meet people, I don't share, like in person, in real everyday life, I don't share everything right away. I used to just be an open book. I would be like, oh, wow, a new friend, blah, 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 blah. Now I'm a lot more private. I have to make sure, because me personally, I've had Agent Smiths sent my way. By the way, I have another video. I forget what it's called, but if you look on my channel, there's it's like the many faces of secondary psychic attack or something like that. It's about Agent Smiths and other types of people who are sent your way. In fact, I will link that in the description when I post this to YouTube, so you can easily find it. So up your security and your privacy. Okay. So whatever that means for you. And that might mean locking your doors. That might mean putting a cover over your computer camera, all the tinfoil hat sort of stuff. But I think it's important. So improving your security and your privacy personally and online and with your home. Yeah. And that means different things to different people. So figure out what that means for you. Tip number 3, as we are finishing up our free class here today, tip number 3 is use discernment at even a higher level than usual discernment regarding any events that you might attend or people that you interact with. If you are a spiritually targeted individual, you're going to have to really fine tune your gut feelings, your intuition. And when you're thinking about going to an event, a couple weeks ago, I was going to go to a yoga studio for an event. And thankfully, every morning I take some time to tune in to see if there's anything that I need to know. And I got a clear message. I'm not going to say what the studio was or anything, but I got a clear message. This is not a safe space for you. There will be major targeting there, spiritual targeting, and do not go. And so that's an example of discernment regarding events, and discernment, of course, about people. You'll want to be more careful about who you share different things with, because of that secondary psychic attack aspect of people being nudged by dark forces. So you might have a smaller circle of trusted people, but smaller circle can be good. So you have your smaller circle of trusted people. Final tip, tip number 4, is spiritual protection. So making sure that you're engaging in some form of spiritual protection every day. If you feel that you are a spiritually targeted individual, you will need to engage in some kind of clearing, grounding, protection, and strengthening of your energy. I do have tips for this in my second book, the Psychic Attack Sourcebook, and that can help get you started. We go really deep into it in my online academy as well. If you feel that your health is being targeted, which is the case with a lot of people, if you feel that as a spiritually targeted individual, your health is being blasted by spiritual forces or human technology or both, then I personally have found something called the Wave Watch that emits sound frequencies to be very, very helpful. I'm not going to go into the Wave Watch today, but I will include a link that has a discount code, $100 discount code, so that if you want to read about it, you can learn more. Their website doesn't talk about spiritual warfare or spiritual targeting like I do. It's considered a wellness device, but it has been the best thing ever for me as I was dealing with directed energy weapons and frequencies being sent to damage my health. And so this has helped a lot, the Wave Watch. And then also in regard to protection, just this doesn't need to be said, but if you are someone who's having really complex, multi-layered issues, sometimes it's hard to do it all on your own. And that is why we have the option to work with me through Spiritual Empowerment Academy, where you can get mentoring and guidance. So you can find that on the website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. So those are the 4 tips. Remember that you're not alone. Find community. Number 2, improve your security and your privacy. Number 3, discernment about events and people. Number 4, spiritual protection and cleansing, grounding, daily protocol, etc. So those tips are not a magic wand, but they will get you started. And you've got to start with the basics before you do all the deeper stuff anyway. So start with all of that. And you, again, remember, you can get more tips in the Psychic Attack Sourcebook. The final chapter of the Psychic Attack Sourcebook is all about spiritual protection cleansing methods. So you can just flip straight to that chapter. Okay. Do we have any final questions before we close out? For those of you who joined late, I welcome you. You can join anytime. We're just so glad to have you. And the replay will be posted either later on tonight or tomorrow. So watch for that. You'll be able to watch the replay from the beginning. So I'll give you all a chance to ask any questions. Oh, no worries. Oh, you live in a different time zone. I love the picture behind you, Claire. It's absolutely beautiful. Where are you from? Oh, yeah, you have a question? Is it about our topic? If it's about our topic, I would be happy to answer it. about being a spiritually targeted individual? Yes, go ahead and ask. And I would love to hear what part of the world you're in, because your picture behind you is so beautiful. All right. So as we're waiting for Claire, if anyone else has any questions or anything that you'd like to say in closing. Rose, yes, since I know you personally. Oh, and Claire's picture is in Italy. Yeah, Rose, that's fine. Since I know you personally, we can do that. The picture, oh, that's beautiful. Were you going to ask a question, Claire? If so, go ahead and ask real quick because we're about to close off. So type quick for us. As we're waiting for her, I've been thinking about, well, sometimes I have my topics all mapped out. I get a download and I know, oh, we're going to do these topics these next 3 months. I'm not sure yet what we're going to do for next month's topic. I'm kind of thinking about something regarding false light, the false light agenda, false light entities, because that is the topic of the 4th book that I've just started writing this week. But if you have another topic, remembering that it should be an introductory topic. If you have an idea, then you can share that with me and we can put that in the mix of possibility of future topics. So Claire says, those of us targeted individuals who have a public platform, I'm a performer, do you have any tips? Yes, and you're welcome about the reminder about personal security, Veronica. Yeah, okay. I will try to give you some tips, Claire. I'm also in a public arena, right? Like, because I put these videos out there. So first let's talk about, just to kind of help me get some time to gain some clarity on this. Let's talk, first I'm going to talk to the people who are not in a public arena. So if you feel that you're a spiritually targeted individual, some things that you could do if you are not like a public figure, then you could make your social media profiles so that your picture is not on your social media profiles. Or if you do have to have a picture, it's a very old picture, because then it is harder for people who are targeting to target you through the photo. And also then the less that you share about yourself personally online, the less opportunity that there will be for people who are going to target you, dark directed people. So overall, the less that you share online, then the better. Okay. But if you're public, like I am, like Claire is, Claire says she's a performer, maybe she's even for promotional purposes posting videos of her performances online, which is a commonplace thing to do. And we would want to do that. But there are more advanced methods that you can use. So, which I'm sorry would be beyond what we can do today, but I'm just going to tell you that they exist. There are more advanced methods where you can create what I teach in the academy, grids of protection, not only around yourself, but around, let's say, your social media profiles, your any of your online work, and even let's say you have a live performance. So even though I don't have time to teach you the exact techniques that we do in the academy, you can take what I'm going to say and get creative with it. I'm hoping that you can do that. So let's say you have a public performance that's in person. Let's say it's this Saturday. So today is Tuesday. You can spend some time in prayer and visualization, sending intention, sending prayers focusing on yourself in that performance, that you have protections around you, that any dark directed people are sent away from you, that only positive people are sent your way. Also, FYI, everybody, you can do the same thing, sending protection energy forward in time with travel. So if you're going to be taking a trip or having an important event where you're just not going to have the brain space to do all the protection in real time, like Claire, on the day when you're performing, you're maybe not going to have the brain space or the time to sit there and do all this protection, but you could do that today or tomorrow, and you could send it forward in time. And so hopefully that idea helps. That's one idea that I'm sharing with you today. That's what I do. Not just forward in time, but for example, the last couple of days in my morning meditation was I did something that I do quite frequently, at least a couple of times a week, which is to create these grids of protection, grounding, cleansing, clearing, and extra protection from my spiritual allies, for my own energy field, for our free Facebook group, for Zoom, like energy boundaries around Zoom, energy boundaries around my academy, cleansing, clearing, protection around my academy and the members, and doing the same for the books that are out there, the YouTube channel. And so how could you apply that to your performances, right? So on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, you can be sending protection and healing toward all of your work that you're doing in the future. Or let's say you have recordings online, you don't want people doing any weird dark directed stuff with your performance recordings, then you can send bubbles of protection around all of those that have been posted in the past. So those are just some ideas just to start with. That's obviously not an exhaustive list of what to do, but for myself, being a public figure, that is the main thing that I do. And I tell you what, if I were not doing the work that I do, where it's necessary for me to be on video, it's necessary for me to have my photos online so people can see I'm a real person. This is what I look like. I'm not a robot. That's all necessary. But if I wasn't doing this work, I would take all of that off. I would have like a picture of a tree for my profile. So those are just some things to consider. Yeah. Oh, Linda Lee for next topic suggestion. What to look out for dealing with AI. I love that topic. Okay, that might be our next one. We're either going to do falselight or AI in the next one. Yeah. So Claire, I hope that that little bit of rambling had some helpful tidbits within it. And you know where to come if you want to go deep and have a lot of guidance. But always when I share ideas like this, I'm wanting to give you something of value and that you can brainstorm and take it and run, make it your own, because you don't have to do it exactly how I'm doing it. So hopefully that helps. Yeah. All right. I think we're all done for tonight. Oh, there's more. There's more comments. Yes. Claire says, that was super helpful. Thank you. I recently received 2 of your books in the mail. And when I skimmed the Psychic Protection book, the grids was drawn to my attention. I'll follow this up. Thank you again. You're very welcome, Claire. And on purpose, I just felt called to, in the Psychic Attack source book, to keep the grids very simple, the grids method very simple in that final chapter, because I didn't want to overload people with just like too many a lot of people who are reading that stuff are under major psychic attack. And so I wanted to keep it at a level where people would have enough brain cells to actually do it. But we actually have more steps to that method that we do in the academy. but you have a good start with what's covered in the book, and you can take that and just make it your own and do what works for you. Okay. So as a member of the Facebook group, you can also circle back around and post a comment when I post the replay of this video. If you experiment with what we talked about today and you want to share additional thoughts, then I welcome that. So thank you, everybody. This was a great class. Thank you for being here. I am very, my spiritual nerd brain is very excited about Linda Lee's idea about AI as a topic suggestion. My brain is going to be really thinking about that one. I have a lot to say about that, especially since we've had a lot of breakthroughs recently with AI. And what I would be talking about are the spiritual aspects, not the ethical aspects, like is it okay for AI to replace artwork done by real artists? And like, that's definitely an issue, but that's not what we're going to dive into. We're going to talk about the spiritual aspects, negative AI out there in the cosmos, as well as positive and neutral AI. So that will be very fascinating. Thank you so much. I will just close by saying, this morning, I opened my eyes and I rolled over and I sat up and hung my legs over the side of the bed. And my first thought was, today I get to spend time with 2 different classes. You guys are my second class of the day. I am so looking forward to these 2 classes. Earlier today, I spent time with my Spiritual Empowerment Academy, and now I'm spending time with you all. That was literally my first thought was, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful I get to spend time with all of you, because it is, let's face it, it's really hard being people who have weird spiritual issues, and it is very healing and wonderful to come together in community. So thank you all so much for being who you are. And I appreciate you. And and Veronica says, oh, I looked forward to it too. What a blessing. Peopling is hard. Oh, yes, it is. Peopling is hard. So thank you so much. And we have our free class in Zoom for our Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group members on the first Tuesday of every month, and the details are listed in the group. If you're not a member of the group and you're watching the replay, you can join the group, or you can just keep enjoying the replays wherever you're watching them. And as always, I'm sending you lots of love, and I'll see you next time. Bye.